The air was painfully still as Dylan Wang stepped into the dimly lit interview room. His eyes were swollen, his voice unsteady, and for the first time in a long while, the world saw a version of him that was stripped of all the glamour, confidence, and charm that usually lit up every screen he touched. This time, he was not an actor. He was not the adored leading man. He was simply a young man carrying a weight far too heavy for his heart. Before we go further, make sure you hit the subscribe button right now, because what you are about to hear is unlike anything ever revealed in the world of cdrama. This story will stay with you long after the video ends. Now let us begin. Dylan sat in silence for nearly a full minute before the cameras even started rolling. The team around him did not dare breathe too loudly. There was something fragile about him, something that looked like it might break if anyone pushed too hard or spoke too soon. He kept staring at his hands, as if trying to gather the courage to revisit a moment that changed him in ways no one could see. When he finally lifted his head, his eyes glistened with tears that he did not bother to hide. He inhaled slowly, and the tremble in his breath echoed the tremble in his soul. Shen Yue. Her name left his mouth like a whisper that carried an entire world inside it. A world full of memories, laughter, secrets they never shared with the cameras, arguments that fans never knew about, and moments that would never repeat themselves again. The interviewer waited, knowing this was a moment that could not be interrupted. Dylan swallowed hard, trying to anchor himself as the past came crashing into the present. "I never wanted to talk about this," he said softly. "I tried to bury it. I tried to forget it. But some words never leave you. Some words follow you no matter where you go." He leaned back, fingers tightening around the arm of the chair. The memories began to unfold. He spoke about the last time he saw Shinyu. Not on set. Not in a rehearsal room. Not at a public event filled with fans and flashes. It was in a quiet place, away from everyone, where Shinyu reached out to him in a moment of vulnerability that even he did not fully understand until much later. She had always been full of energy, joking between takes, turning even the most stressful filming days into something warm and manageable. But that day, she looked pale, distant, and tired in a way Dylan had never seen before. Her smile was softer, her steps slower, her voice quieter. Dylan had asked her if she was fine and she nodded, but he could tell something was wrong. She had a look in her eyes he could not shake off, a look that spoke of endings. When she finally pulled him aside, her hands were shaking. Her voice broke as she tried to find the right words, the last words she would ever say to him. Dylan paused in the interview, eyes drifting away as if he were seeing her standing in front of him once again. He whispered the moment into existence. She said, "Thank you for giving me a place to rest when everything else felt too heavy. I never told you how much that meant to me." His own voice cracked. He wiped his cheek with the back of his hand, but the tears kept flowing. It was clear that the memory haunted him, not because it hurt, but because it was one of the most intimate truths he had ever received from her, and he never had the chance to say what he truly felt in return. Dylan continued, his words slow and heartfelt. "She told me to keep going, to protect my heart, to stay true to myself, no matter what happened next. And then she said something I still cannot forget." He leaned forward, voice sinking into a fragile whisper. She said, "If one day we are not standing side by side anymore, I want you to know that you were someone I trusted more than anyone else." The room fell silent as Dylan choked on the memory. "I did not expect those to be her last words to me," he said. "I did not understand why she spoke like it was a farewell. I did not know she had been carrying so much inside her." As he finished retelling the moment, Dylan covered his face with his hands. The pain in his posture was unmistakable. This was not an act. This was not a performance. This was a confession from a man who had finally allowed himself to mourn someone who meant far more to him than the public ever knew. He ended with a message to fans, his voice gentle and trembling. "Cherish the people you love. Cherish every moment. Sometimes the words you think you will hear again become the last ones you carry for the rest of your life." The cameras finally cut, but the weight of his confession lingered in the room. The entire team remained still, shaken by the raw emotion that Dylan had revealed so honestly. This was not just a confession. It was a glimpse into a bond that went deeper than any role they ever shared. A bond that left a permanent mark on his heart. And for fans around the world, this confession would forever reshape how they saw Dylan Wang and Shinyu, not just as actors, but as two souls who shared a connection rare and unforgettable. The world thought Dylan's confession was the end of the story. Fans believed that after revealing Shen Yue's final words, there was no deeper truth left to uncover. But the silence that followed the emotional interview was not peace. It was the quiet before an even heavier storm. Because what Dylan said publicly was only a piece of the truth. The deeper part, the part he had kept hidden even from his closest circle, was still locked inside him. Until the night, everything changed. Hours after the interview aired, Dylan remained alone in his room. The curtains were drawn. His phone buzzed nonstop with messages from fans, friends, and reporters, but he ignored everything. His mind was drowning in memories. Moments with Shinyu flashed before him like scenes from a film that only he could see. He remembered the laughter they shared behind the cameras, the glances that lasted longer than they should have, the quiet comfort they gave each other on days when fame felt too loud and too heavy. And he remembered the final moment that haunted him, the moment he had never spoken about. He knew he could not hide it anymore. He stood up, grabbed his jacket, and walked out into the night. His steps were unsteady, each one pulled by a memory that refused to fade. He made his way to a small studio building, one that fans did not know about, one that only he and Shinyu used whenever they wanted to escape the chaos of their public lives. The moment he entered, the air felt familiar. The faint scent of the flowers Shinyu loved remained in the corners of the room. Dylan closed the door and leaned against it, breathing in deeply as if hoping the room itself would bring her voice back to him. And then it happened. He saw the small wooden box on the table, the one Shinyu had left behind. He had never opened it. He did not have the courage. She had handed it to him that final day and whispered, "Open it when you are ready." He never imagined those words would become a promise that burned in his heart. Tonight, he finally felt ready. Or, at least ready enough to face the truth he had been running from. His hands shook as he lifted the lid. Inside were several photos of them on set, a necklace she always wore during rehearsals, and a folded handwritten letter sealed carefully. His breath caught. His heart pounded. He sat down slowly on the edge of the sofa, holding the letter as if it were the last fragile piece of her he could touch. When he opened it, the handwriting made his chest tighten. It was her voice on paper, her warmth, her truth. "Dylan, if you are reading this, then you listened to me and waited for the right moment. Thank you. There is something I never said because I did not want it to change the way we worked together or the way we cared for each other. But I need you to know it now." He paused. His eyes blurred with tears. "I trusted you more than anyone, but I also cared for you more than I allowed myself to show. You kept me grounded when everything felt impossible. You made me smile when I wanted to disappear. And if the world ever feels quiet without me, I want you to remember this." His hands trembled as he read the final lines. "My last words to you were not the full truth. The real ones are here. I want you to live without regret. I want you to keep going. And I want you to know that if I had one more day, just one more moment, I would have used it to tell you that you were home to me." Dylan's breath broke. He pressed the letter to his chest, tears falling freely. The pain was powerful, but within it was something warm, something comforting. Shen Yue had not just trusted him. She had cherished him in ways he never dared to believe. But the letter was not finished. There was a final paragraph, written in a softer tone. "If you ever feel lost, return here. I have hidden one last message in the place we always stood when we wanted to calm our minds. The truth you need is waiting for you." Dylan stood immediately, wiping his tears with the back of his hand. He glanced around the room, searching. Then he saw it, the old wooden panel beside the window where they used to stand whenever they shared quiet moments. He kneeled, pushed the loose panel gently, and found a small envelope tucked inside. Inside that envelope was a single line. "Do not carry the weight alone. Let your heart rest with mine." Dylan fell silent. His sorrow softened into something deeper, something pure. He finally understood why Shinyu's last words had stayed with him. She had left him not with pain, but with love. A love he would carry for the rest of his life. When he left the studio that night, he was no longer weighed down by regret. He walked with purpose, holding her letter close, knowing that her final message was not a goodbye. It was a reminder that some bonds, no matter what happens, never fade. And this, he knew, was the part of the story he would never share in public. The world had heard her last spoken words, but only he would carry the truth of her final written words. A truth too precious for cameras. A truth that would live in his heart forever. If you want part 3 with an even deeper emotional twist or a scene where Dylan speaks to Bai Lu about the letter or a hidden final wish Shinyu left behind, just tell me, and I will create it.